Yeah, I think so. It's weird with this kid. This kid was a big five-star coming out of high school, and then he's leaving, and there's no like normally there's some kind of a crystal ball like where this kid's going to end up, and there's nothing. It's definitely a big mystery of where he's going to end up. I feel wherever he goes, there that school's getting a very high-end corner, which is corner is one of those positions like if you're good out there, you're good and you make your middle a lot better by able to put these guys on the island. But it is weird with Dion because he's so boisterous and he's not he's not afraid to say what's on his mind. The guy gives it to you 100. And but it's interesting what's going on with this kid. Like it's almost like he's been blackballed a little bit.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of culture, right, in the college arena, right? You have your persona, your repertoire, your rapport with the players, coaches, organizations, as we talk about universities and programs. You also have your ability to change things around. Dion had his personality and the train of all this stuff with Prime and everything and his brand. And you got guys to buy into a system. If you prove that you're not coachable, you ruin your own marketability. I think that's what McLean did. He may be a stellar athlete, but if you have no coachability to it, right? You have no leniency in your game, no adaptability to improve, right? Or to learn from people. If you think you're the hot guy on the field or whatever, and I'm sure people I've played with or been around have been, when you are hot, you are either stellar or you're garbage, either one. Look at the wave of publicity A&M got with Johnny Manziel. The wave of publicity that USC got with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley transferring in. Look at the wave of stuff that we had with the 06 to 08 Gators.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beard Zone podcast. My name is David. I'm one of the hosts. You know these two guys, Carlos, Scooter. How we doing today, fellas? Transfer portal coming to an end tonight as we are recording this. It's been a wild one. It's been a wild one.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I know we've been talking offline about this, and there's a couple things that NIL really has changed the game in the transfer portal and the conference shakeups, and we're going to get to that in a second. But man, it's a pleasure getting back with this. Carlos, I know you got a load of information for everybody.
Oh yeah. This is definitely the free agency of college football. So, you get two recruiting periods a year now. The kids out of high school and now the transfer portal.
Yeah. Well, it's been definitely wild ones. I want to jump right into this because there's been some teams that have clearly won the transfer portal and some who have, not been so successful. So, in your opinion, I've seen, Ole Miss up there. I've seen Texas A&M up there. Colorado was up there at one point. I know that we have our own thoughts about that. Miami's done big things this transfer portal, but they've also lost a lot of players this transfer portal. So how does that balance out? Where do you guys kind of rank the teams that are in that top mix? For this transfer portal period.
Yeah, I think like you said, like it's definitely Colorado has had a volume increase of literally replacing 34 players off their roster that are coming in. So that's a huge, massive overhaul for them. Lane Kiffin, FSU seem to always kill it in this transfer portal. So, and then like I said, Miami's actually had a big week this week too, getting in some players that'll definitely bolster that offense.
Yeah, man. And I think Louisville trying to make a run at the ACC, what they did with Lamar Jackson and Teddy Bridgewater, they're trying to bring that type of offense back. And they had a shot earlier in the season last year, but I think it kind of fell through with injuries, and they're trying to replenish that. You mentioned, man, Colorado. I don't know what Dion's doing there. He's got a good coaching mentality. He's got a good culture, but I don't understand why everyone's leaving it. And I think it's just personality based, right? You have a lot of guys that want to play and they want to play for Prime and all these other stellar coaches or stellar former players in the NFL. And then you get them in, and then they're like, oh, this is not what I want. This is not like prime time. This is Dion, right? There's a big difference in personality and how you're going to get coached, mentored, and how you play. And now we're seeing that transition, right? You buy in or you get out. Same thing with Lane Kiffin. Same thing with Lincoln Riley. You buy in or get out. I understand Ole Miss. They're in the top, I think, 5 in like every other rating and all that, and they killed it. I mean, from a pure stars, like 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, all that. From a pure talent base and gaps, they absolutely won the transfer portal. A lot like Texas A&M. They had a lot of guys leave, but they filled their gaps basically 1 for 1.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how Lane Kiffin's going to capitalize on all those transfers. And I'm not a huge Lane Kiffin fan, strictly because he can win, he can put up points, but he always chokes. Like, always chokes in the late season. Texas A&M's been known to have the Aggie choke, right? But I would like to see those teams kind of come into the SEC West and actually start winning some games besides the old LSU, Alabama. We had Mizzou up there too this year. Louisville, I would like to see kind of get back to some form of prominence. I know you got your Hurricanes there, Carlos, and they killed it too.
Yeah, big names for them. I'm so glad we get to talk about these guys because they got Damian Martinez from Oregon State. Bringing Sam Houston, the guy's amazing with yards after the catch. Half of his yards at Houston this past season came after the catch. They add in some defensive linemen that are definitely going to help them out. Cam Ward from the beginning upgrades that's the best quarterback they probably had in the last 8 years. Man, big moves for them, but they need it. You know, I'm a firm believer, like, the college needs certain teams to be good. And I feel like when Miami was good and FSU was good and the 3 big Florida teams were good, it takes college football to another level with rivalry. So I feel like college football needs some teams to come back to relevance. So we're not just on the same Alabama, Georgia, train. And Miami's definitely one of them. So excited for them. Actually kind of excited for, not a big Dion guy, but he's probably got the most star-studded coaching staff ever seen. Between him, Warren Sapp's is there. Sightings of just like even like Ray Lewis. Like, he just got so many high-profile coaches that these kids will come in and I mean, why wouldn't you want to be coached by Warren Sapp? I mean, arguably one of the great top 5 defensive tackles in all of football.
Yeah. I so to kind of stick on with the Colorado and Deion Sanders and everything, we saw a lot of people leave Colorado, right? But we saw them gain a lot of people. Probably due to that coaching staff, probably due to it being Deion and what he's trying to build up there in Colorado. There's no doubt that he is putting Colorado on the map, right? Like, Colorado was kind of an overlooked college just a short couple of years ago. And then, yesterday, last year, they started off really hot. They beat TCU, which was, in the national championship game the year before to open up the season. They ended up going, I think, 3-0 to start the season. And then they ran into an absolute bulldozer with the Oregon Ducks. And that kind of brought them back down to earth. And they weren't really able to recover from that. Now, granted, that offensive line, with Sanders, I mean, he was running for his life last year. So I think that they definitely added the pieces or some of the pieces that they needed on that offensive line to help Sanders continue to be successful going into this season. But I do have a question because we're seeing, it seems like, there are some pros and cons with Dion and with this Colorado environment or this Colorado, like, it's almost like its own entity right now, right? And but we see one guy, Cormati McLean, is still not signed with anybody. And from the reports that I've heard, he really hasn't even visited a lot of people. Now, we've talked about him with, some of his off the field issues or even on the field issues where he doesn't necessarily want to practice or anything. And now it's like, so if you're going to Colorado and if you're seeing this top rated cornerback, right, coming from Colorado and wanting to and entering into the transfer portal, and then we saw some of the dirt that was, put on his name by Dion, is that gonna maybe affect how players respond when it comes down next year for the transfer portal if they want to come out of Colorado? Are they looking at this and saying, I can leave, but who's going to pick me up because my name and my reputation might be, damaged due to this?
Yeah, I think so. It's weird with this kid. This kid was a big 5 star coming out of high school, and then he's leaving, and there's no like. Normally, there's some kind of a crystal ball, like where this kid's going to end up, and there's nothing. It's like it's definitely a big mystery of where he's going to end up. I feel wherever he goes, that school's getting a very high end corner, which is, corner is one of those positions. Like if you're good out there, you're good, and you make your middle a lot better by able to put these guys on the island. But it is weird with Dion because he's so boisterous and he's not afraid to say what's on his mind. The guy gives it to you 100. But it's interesting what's going on with this kid. Like it's almost like he's been blackballed a little bit.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of culture, right, in the college arena, right? You have your persona, your repertoire, your rapport with the players, coaches, organizations, as we talk about universities and programs. You also have your ability to change things around. Dion had his personality and the train of all this stuff with Prime and everything and his brand. And you got guys to buy into a system. If you prove that you're not coachable, you ruin your own marketability. I think that's what McLean did. He may be a stellar athlete, but if you have no coachability to it, right? You have no leniency in your game, no adaptability to improve, right? Or to learn from people. If you think you're the hot guy on the field or whatever, and I'm sure people I've played with or been around have been, when you are hot, you are either stellar or you're garbage, either one. Look at the wave of publicity A&M got with Johnny Manziel. The wave of publicity that USC got with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley transferring in. Look at the wave of stuff that we had with the 06 to 08 Gators.
But don't you find that kind of ironic with what you're saying with how, if you're not coachable, if you don't want to put in, the work on practice, don't you find that kind of ironic that it's this kid who's playing for Deion Sanders that is saying that kind of stuff, and now he's getting his name rubbed in the dirt? Like I just find that like
same thing with Warren Sapp.
It's exactly.
Warren Sapp's got the attitude too, and you want guys going to the school.
It's funny with Colorado because Dion doesn't do captain's leaders; he does dogs. You're either a dog or you're a leader. And I'm wondering how much Dion's son's playing on the team has an effect where his one son on defense is a dog, and that's what that's a high coveted position with him, and the other one is the leader. And having to compete, and I think McLean was as good as his the son on defense. But I'm wondering how much that plays a part with his kids there, and his kids are highlighted. What's the quarterback? It starts with an S.
Shador.
He's got Tom Brady coaching him on the off seasons. He's up there, and then you got it's almost the ball effect with the kids. The LaMelo Ball and Lonzo Ball with his dad, it's just like my kids, and I'm wondering how much that plays into effect to where McLean makes the 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 expression, I want to play somewhere where they're not playing for clicks.
Yeah.
And I think that it kind of bit him in the butt a little bit there, I think. And rumors start flying, and the next thing you know, you're not that coachable kid. I don't know if it's that way with him, but he'll find a home eventually. But,
Yeah, he will find a home, and that's the one thing that I mean, like, there's correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not a strict deadline as far as like these kids having to sign with a team or having to commit to a team inside this transfer portal, right? I mean, I know that most likely these kids want to get on campus before summer starts. So, I mean, we can still see some commitments after the portal. And as we're recording this, we are recording this on Tuesday night, so we have just a couple more hours of that portal left. But I want to stick on the defensive side of things because there was a guy who we mentioned last week, and I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, Scooter, you were the one who brought this guy up, and it's Tacario Davis, and he ended up withdrawing his name from the transfer portal to play another year with the Arizona Wildcats. How do you feel about that?
That's a tough choice. I can't remember if Arizona went to Big 12 or Big 10. They were part of that Pac-12 divestment. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, to be honest with you. The talent that you have in Arizona is not typically your...
They're a Big 12.
Oh, they are now Big 12. Okay, so there we go. You're going to have to compete now with Colorado, no longer Texas, no longer Oklahoma. So you have TCU. You still got Oklahoma State. My thing is, if he stayed with Arizona, he saw some form of future in starting, and then his potential to go to the NFL as number 2. If he goes to another team with higher caliber athletes, his potential to start games and to make that impact might be slightly lower. I still think Tacario Davis is probably one of the top rated corners, much like McLean, but he has the attitude and the pedigree to go along with it. Arizona, to me, outside of like Gronkowski, Nick Foles, I think there's another one in there that's recent in the NFL, but they don't typically have a high, I would say, draft count compared to Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, all that, right? I would say there's some uncertainty from what I would suggest that he go to, but we're just 3 dudes in their homes talking about football. So
fair enough.
At the end of the day, though, it's 2 things for the entire transfer portal in the future of college football. It is the NIL changing forever college football, and then 2, the conference shakeup. You no longer have a Pac-12. You don't have the Heritage. You no longer have a Rose Bowl. I mean, it's still there, obviously, but you don't have that like UCLA USC game. You don't have and on top of that, you lost the Big 12 shaken up now. Like the Big 12 is not the Big 12 that it used to be. You don't have, Oklahoma State. You don't have Texas A&M, or Texas Tech. We have the transfer portal is now greatly affected on revenue, not only for the colleges, the TV stations, and especially the players. The players have more stake in how they play, where they play. And I think that affected Tacario Davis. He saw his future being greater with Arizona.
Yeah. So to kind of piggyback off of that with the whole NIL deal and how it's definitely, going to change college football as we know it moving forward. But now there's this rumor going around with the whole shared revenue thing, which could open up another door of, obviously it could increase, some of the NIL deals moving forward, especially if there's some shared revenue. How do you feel? Do you have any opinions or thoughts on how this could maybe even affect it if we did see this go through, where now the college football is now a shared revenue where it's like house money plus the NIL deals.
Wow, that would be it's weird with the excuse me, shared revenue is because some of these schools pull in a lot of money. Like Texas pulls in a crazy amount of money, and actually Texas A&M they produce more money than anybody. They have it's some ridiculous stat of how many Fortune 500 leaders they have that graduate from that school. It's just hard to imagine some of these bigger schools getting it. Like, that's a lot of power and ammunition that they have. Like, at some point, they're going to phase out some of these smaller schools, just being able to get so much money in.
But will that shared revenue change that? Where you're not going to see these powerhouse schools be able to just overtake these smaller schools? Are we going to be able to see more maybe hometown hero kind of things with what we're looking at with McLean, where he's wanting to go home?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to want to share it. Like, I don't think like Texas, I think that's where they're going to run into. These schools are used to pulling in X $1 million a year, and then they're going to force to give out to a smaller school $15 million to be able to. If it gets passed, I'll be very surprised. I just can't imagine like Texas to leave their conference for the SEC with a big surprise and give up that TV money. And I was surprised to see them move.
They actually, I think, had to give up, was it Longhorn TV or whatever that they had for their football team? And going back to shared revenue, look at what the ACC is facing right now with Clemson and FSU. When you got guys that are like Wake Forest, right? They're really good in probably basketball and definitely baseball, but they are absolute garbage when it comes to football. Now, you have FSU and Clemson and Miami, who are just, historically speaking, very good in probably almost every sport that they have for their college. And they have to share revenue with lesser schools that are maybe more academically inclined. You look at Texas, you look at Oklahoma, you look at Alabama, you look at Florida. You have very prominent schools for athletics that bring in way more money than smaller schools. Like, could you imagine trying to put together the revenue with USF versus UCF compared to Michigan, Ohio State?
I mean,
it would be like this. It would be, it's ridiculous. And I'm not faulting on my Bulls, but the USF Bulls are coming back, right? They're trying to make a run for it. They're trying to make sure that they get into the top 25 and stay there, right? That's, if you're in the top 25 and stay in the top 25 consistently, you are making money regardless. And that's what we're going to see with these conferences. And I think the shifting of the conferences was directly tied to winning and money. And that's what we're going to see. And I really hope we don't see that go to like some top 3 conferences where we got 20 teams in each one and they're all duking it out. I mean, that might be better for overall competition, but who gets in what conference and how do they do the games? How do you do the rivalries? Like the SEC and Big Ten now are like, what, 18 or 20 teams deep. And it's like, okay, well, who plays who? Yeah. And you still got the independents. You still got Notre Dame. Eventually they're going to have to jump in. Because
I don't think they do, man. Notre Dame has signed some deal with, it's going to sound bad that it's a Catholic school, signed a deal with the devil somewhere to get this revenue money that I don't think they ever joined. Like, the ACC's been trying to get them for years, but the thing with the revenue share, the school's got 1 year, so it actually stems back.
It's only football that they've chosen to do this with, which is interesting.
Well, football is the moneymaker.
Yeah, and they may not have a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, it is going to trial. It doesn't start till next year that it goes to actual court to a higher power. So let's see what happens. I mean,
higher
even
power,
the players will benefit.
Catholic school.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. It's all making sense now.
Notre Dame sabotaging the whole thing.
Where's the Illuminati? They're somewhere.
So, the players can benefit from this as well. But, I mean, at what point, I mean, we're going to have college players making we already have Caleb Williams, who was making like $5 million a year.
We all saw his
Same.
house on
So
the Pivot podcast.
we go back. So we
all
go back
saw
to
his
Colorado.
face.
We go back. Let's take another step backwards here for Colorado, right? Shador Sanders was making what, $3 or $5 million,
Ridiculous.
and he's not up for Heisman. He was, but he's not up for Heisman. He may be this year, but we'll see. And you have all these athletes trying to go. And we were just talking about the other guy. He never got like 13 million or something collectively.
Oh,
Jaden Rashada.
yes.
Yeah, Jaden Rashada, right? So, and he's finally at Georgia. So let's think about this, right? If you have the EA Sports game, college football game coming back, please.
July. It's coming out this July.
Yes. So you have that
I've
revenue,
already put in my PTO. I've already put it in.
right? And easily putting in some absence for that for sure. It's like Kyler Murray in Call of Duty. It's gonna happen.
Right.
But you have the game coming back. You have the conferences shaking up. You have and we're not talking. It's crazy the amount of money we have in college football and the transfer portal.
Oh,
Could you imagine having half your team bail on you and then all of a sudden you recoup every single position that you needed? Colorado needed O-line. They absolutely needed defensive line, and they capitalized on it in stellar fashion. The other guys they picked up, I think it was more of, I want to go play with Dion, and that comes with money, right? You're getting TV time, and the more times you can be on TV as a player, which means you have more tape or more recognizable tape, you get more fan base, you're probably going to get drafted. And it's all about the draft. Let's be real. It's championships, I gotcha, but it's how do you get to the NFL? That's where the money's at.
No, it is, and it's become like such a business now. The only problem I'm still always going to have with the transfer portal and NIL is, like, it's still the compete part. Like, these kids they don't want to compete against, I got, somebody in front of me that's coming in, or somebody that's coming in, or, I don't want to sit for a year. It's almost like compete, like the Dion Dog guys. Like, that's, it's still a part I don't like. Even Miami loses 27 people to the portal. They do get 13. Now, there are 13 big names, but it's just like, at some point, I guess the old school mentality of competing and stuff like that. But it is this is what it is, and it's definitely going to shake up college football. I think it gets a little bit worse when it comes to money, and at some point they'll cap it, because there's nobody in college that should be making more per year than a good NFL football player. Like, you got a guy that's making $6 million, and that's what's reported. Even somebody like a Bronny James, who's not a good college player, still making $3 million a year. Like, come on, like, you scored 5 points a game. Like, in the NBA, that gets you about $400,000. Like,
there's got to be a cap.
Yeah, he's making more than NBA players, and this guy might not even make it to the NBA. But then same thing with football. I mean, I get it, get you money, but it's definitely.
You mentioned money, and it just got me on a thought. And I know the transfer portal is the subject of our conversation here. If we're talking about normal business, what's college? Right? Because you can't get paid in high school unless you work.
I mean, college is a business.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's entry level. So you should be getting entry level price, not you should be getting NFL money. You shouldn't be getting pro level money. You should be getting entry level money.
So, but to kind of play devil's advocate here, we've always seen it to where these great college players go into the NFL, and once they get that paycheck, they fizzle out into nothing, and then they leave their team, and they just fly away into the
ether.
So, but if these guys are getting paid now, these families are secure, right? And they're able to build a little bit of a portfolio and have a little bit of they have something in the bank, and it's not just all, I made it to the NFL, now I have hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars in the bank. now it's like they've already experienced that. They've already kind of been through that fire, and they've been through that fire where they are strictly like watched by their coaches and by that staff and by that school. Whereas once you get to the NFL, you're you're a grown adult. Hey, you figure out. You get your money, guys, and everything else like that. So could we see maybe a little bit of longevity? I don't know if that's the word, but could we see something to where we see these guys stay as competitive because they've already gotten what they were already striving for in college?
We're actually seeing it. We see a lot of players that are put in their 4 years at other schools, and where they would normally move on, they transfer out because they still have that, like they finagle a year eligibility. There's a guy that was on Miami's team, a tight end McCormick. He's entering his ninth NCAA season,
You have Van Wilder.
ninth, and he just transferred out again to give him his ninth season, which is a little ridiculous. So we are seeing that where they can get paid more, and they do have more control of their draft stock. Cam Ward is a good one out of Miami's quarterback, where he technically should have came out this year, but he has a year of eligibility still left. He's able to get that and play right away, so he can stay in. He's going to make some money, and now he doesn't have to deal with this huge quarterback class that just came out, and he can still make some money, and maybe build a stock in. But we are seeing that where players are finding ways to get more between medical or whatever it is, red shirts, so they can, and then use those to stay in longer. I mean, a lot of players that are in the draft, they stayed a year longer than what they probably should have. So that we're seeing it now. We're seeing where they're, hey, I can stay in college, make a mill, and I might get drafted in the 6th round, and they're not getting paid that million. So smart move on their part.
Yeah.
So if you had to pick one winner and one loser in the transfer portal showdown we had this year, let's be honest, who do you got?
I'm with you.
Who do you pick?
You know who the loser are? The kids that went to Ole Miss. Because you're 100% right on Lane Kiffin. You talk about a guy that sells them a bag of goods, and they don't do anything. They're going to lose 4 to 5 games. They're going to, is he going to beat Bama? He's going to beat Georgia. No. Those are the loser kids that think that they're going to win a championship. But I actually think a team that reloaded very well was Oregon. They get Gabriel, the quarterback from Oklahoma, to replace Bo Nix. They get some they were able to replace the key pieces that they lost to the draft very well. They're a team that I think can be really sneaky good and probably will be a top 5 preseason when the rankings come out officially. I think you're going to see them in that top 5. And then, much as I hate to say it, man, freaking FSU every year. Norville is a guy that they wanted to hang outside the city limits, not even in city limits, because they hated him so much that first year, to being, man, everybody had to put their foot in their mouth and go, this guy can coach, work the portal. He just needed that year to stink. And again, they have another great transfer portal, man. They're going to be a team to reckon with.
Yeah. I mean, I think my winner is actually, I mean, Carlos will like this, but I think it's the Miami Hurricanes, honestly. I think that they built, so they went out early, right? I mean, they got Cam Ward early on, but then they went out in this transfer portal and they were really intentional with building around him and trying to make him as successful as he possibly can. And I think that they're gonna reap the benefits of that because of the weapons that they put around him this transfer portal. As far as losers, I mean, I don't really know, to be honest with you. There's definitely a few out there that I feel like could have done, something, but just haven't really taken advantage of it. I don't want to jump on the Ole Miss because that was actually my team. But Carlos stole that, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but But yeah, and it's just because of the track record of Lane Kiffin, as far as what he was able to do, and as far as the players that he was able to bring in, they won. in reality, they won the transfer portal because the amount of stud players that he was able to bring in on paper, it's great. Now, will it translate well into wins? I don't know. Let's see if Lane Kiffin doesn't, continue to do what he has a track record of doing. So but for me, I like what Miami did. I like how they built around Cam Ward. They were very intentional with it. They had a plan, they stuck with it, and then they executed it. So shout out to them.
Ole Miss was a good one for losers. That's a good conversation. And it just baffles me every time there's so much talent with them and they just can't finish. For winners, I got to stay on the Prime train. I don't know what it is. I follow him. I listen to what he has to say. And I know it comes with a grain of salt, right? Everyone's like, oh, what he's did in the past. Well, we adults, all right? He changed how he is as a man.
Yeah.
And he's trying to make guys better by explaining what he did wrong, right? What Prime did at FSU is not how you're supposed to do ball. You will get an education, and everyone tries to call him out about the whole Big 12 and guys not going to class and stuff like that. No, man, I'm buying into Prime. I think his first year started out super hot, and he a reality checked, right? There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of stuff to go around for the college world. And I think he has a good grasp on what he's doing. And I think Colorado transfer portal, absolute win. The loss, the losers, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but Alabama. You lost Nick Saban. You have a new regime in Alabama. Granted, it's Washington's head coach. He's stellar. He did great with them. He got them to the national championship game. The first year at a school is very difficult. We've seen the onesie twosies with Urban Meyer and Jason Day and, what Pete Carroll did in USC back in the day. You got a chance to make a huge impact and to solidify your name in college football history, especially at Alabama, which no one typically gets a chance. The history of Alabama coaches, you win and you stay, or you lose and you're gone within like 2 years. So,
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah. So let's be real. There's a high expectation mark that you have to hit for Alabama and their transfers. I mean, you got to perform, dude. Alabama is. There's one of my buddies, McDonald's, gonna hit me up. I swear to God, if he hears this episode, you have to be the best to play at Alabama. What we've seen the past probably 20 years is just premium college football. You are destined for the NFL if you play at Alabama, pretty much. And I think for that level of talent in coaching that they have to keep up with, I think the transfer portal for them is kind of a loss. You're stacking the cards kind of against you in a way, but you're also trying to elevate yourself. And if you can't, you're gonna have to find a new team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the transfer portal has a couple more hours as of right now, as we are doing this recording. So who knows what we will wake up to? Maybe there's some, last minute splashes. But let us know down in the comments who you think the winners and losers are. Let us know who maybe some sleeper teams that maybe kind of snuck underneath the radar that not a lot of people are talking about, but if you look at what they were able to do, they were able to bring in some good talent. So, but we appreciate you guys for listening. We appreciate your guys' continuous support. We just ask that you continue to like this video, share this video, subscribe, and that's the best way to support us. But Carlos, Scooter, as we come to an end, this is probably going to be the last college episode, maybe for a little bit. Not really sure how long, but with the transfer portal ending, let's be real. I mean, there's really nothing left after this. So, but we will be back sooner than sooner rather than later. But as we say goodbye to our college fans one last time this season, you have anything for them?
Just stay tuned, man. There's a lot that's going on in the college world. Whether we produce consistent episodes or not, or they're sporadic, just stay tuned. That's all we ask for, man. Hit us up on the socials as well. You got Twitter at Beard Zone Pod. You got Facebook, the Beard Zone Podcast, and you got us on Instagram at the Beard Zone Football Podcast. And banter with us. Tell us what you think. Just because we're not producing episodes doesn't mean we're not live people and willing to talk with you.
Uh-huh.
And we are absolutely willing to banter.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, leave some comments in there. Who you think the team that maybe came out on top or didn't. Kind of the favorite players out there that you are still out there you like to see end up at your schools.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And on that note,
Beard Zone